Welcome to the Mindful Mama Movement podcast. I'm Shannon Kinney-Dew, creator of AFreeSpiritLife.com.
And I'm Ashley Walburn, owner of Home Holistic. And together, we are bringing you the Mindful Mama Movement.
Mindful mothering is about nurturing your heart and soul while you nurture your children. It's about consciously awakening to your inner wisdom and being peacefully present as a mama, no matter where you are on your journey. From discovering your newborn to loving and accepting the wonderful people who've left your nest. Our movement is empowering mamas to be authentic and to live inspired lives. We're so happy you're here.
To be free, to feel free, to be free.
Hey everyone, welcome to episode 20 of the Mindful Mama Movement podcast. In today's show, we're talking to Carly Mentlik. Carly is a licensed professional clinical counselor and a certified yoga teacher. She has been working mainly with tween and teen girls. She creates curriculum, courses, programs, and she's taught enrichment programs for homeschool co-ops, youth groups, and for private families in all areas of life, specifically about personal growth, creative thinking, psychology, philosophical thinking, creative writing, yoga, expressive arts, and project-based learning. Carly has a lot of experience and she's sharing it with us today as we talk about empowering our children. We do talk a lot about empowering girls, but we also get into the topic of boys and children as well. We also talk about why is it that girls especially and women lose connection with their authentic voice, and how can we now as women find our courage to speak up, to be more powerful and connected to our truth, and also how can we then help our children stay connected to that light and that courage and that confidence that they're born with? How can we continue to foster that as they get older? So join us in the Mindful Mama Movement group on Facebook, and Carly will be there to answer any questions that you might have. She's also offering some great giveaways, so check out the end of the show for those details, and thanks for being here. Enjoy the show.
Hi, Carly. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
Well, we're excited also. We're going to just jump right in. Can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and what stage of motherhood you're in?
Yeah, well, I'm Carly Mentlik. I'm actually originally from New Jersey, and I live near the beach in San Diego with my almost soon-to-be 18-month-old daughter. I'm a single mom, so it's me and her and our two rescue dogs who are now barking in the background. And I just started an online business, so I have a chance to stay at home with her. I had a private counseling practice locally, and I closed that to be able to have a way to stay home with her. And yeah, that's pretty much being a mother to an 18-month-old is pretty much what who I am at this time, and what I love doing. So, yeah.
Well, can you share just a little bit about what it was like for you becoming a mother, and how has motherhood changed you?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, it's a totally transformational, and also it's me becoming more of myself, if that makes sense. It just requires this just like fierce presence and fire and like authenticity to be able to give, because I want to give her everything that I possibly can. So it's helped me become more of myself and be even more devoted to be more of myself. And what it was like to become one, it has always been my dream, and something, I've worked with families and children for so long, and it kind of was something I actually thought that I might not have a chance to be. So it was just an incredible gift and surprise and a dream come true, really, to become a mother. So
I'm curious, since you mentioned you're a single mom and really running your own business, what is that like? What challenges have you faced? Because that really sounds very amazing to me.
it's challenging, and it's also, it's what I've always known, and known how it was going to be. So I knew right away when I got pregnant that I was going to be doing this on my own. So it was a choice that I was stepping into and making, and I have incredible support of family and friends. But just in the sense of, I know why we're all here, and, wanting to be mindful and finding how to manage all of that and have fullness in it. It's definitely challenging. But it's all that I've known. So it's kind of like, it's its own unique thing. And I just find ways, to me, she's the most important. So things are centered around that. And then, how can I then, succeed in my business and, still be myself and still explore my own self. And also be able to give to her everything that I want. So it's definitely challenging. And I really try to see it as a gift every single day, as hard as it can be. And that really helps.
Yeah. Was there something in your own life experience that led you down the path of wanting to empower girls specifically? And what inspired you to do this kind of work?
Yeah. It's definitely, I was drawn to just education and working with kids. And then when so I love that just in general. And then when I, got this initial, I started in graduate school, started working in girls development, and was on a research team that was focused on that and understanding girls' experiences. This research that showed that girls at a certain time, lose their voice and become disempowered, and start to, some in bigger ways and some in smaller ways, cover over their power and their true self. That then really spoke to me, as I could start to, look back and see, where did that happen for me, and when did that happen, in my process as an adult, moving into stepping back into that. How can I be authentic? How can I be myself? How can I overcome all those challenges? How can I be the best person I can be? That really, was the inspiration of, like, how can I help these girls have that, so they never have to lose that spirit. And seeing a girl that's so alive, like an 8 or 9-year-old, and just that spark, or, any age, when you see someone that's really just has that spark of life ignited in them, it's like, I want to help save that. Yeah. So no one ever has to not be in touch with that, or knows how to get back to that place, so that it definitely was sparked by, part of my own path. And then just kind of seeing that life and just wanting to help preserve it.
I think so many of us moms, that's a big drive of ours, is we see how naturally creative and authentic and powerful our kids are. And then at some point, whether it's a certain age or an experience or through school, something happens a lot of times that we have a choice. And it does seem like that tween age, period, where you can go one of two ways. And I'm curious, just from, as you shared with some of the research you learned, and I know it happens for boys too, but since we're talking more about girls, why do so many girls and women lose touch with their authentic voice to begin with?
Yeah. There's a lot of, just to speak to, where I kind of started, and the research that I started with, what's really interesting is that the way that this research started with girls at this age was to start with actually researching women and experiencing what you're talking about, is like that lost voice, or that difficulty to be in touch with your authenticity, and then these women, Lynn Michael Brown and Carol Gilligan, want to travel back to where in time does this happen? Where in time does this happen for girls? And I can actually also then speak to, there's also been research done, is when does a similar parallel process happen for boys? But to stick with the girls, this time, this 9 to 11-year-old time, and I've actually in my own practice kind of seen it happening, earlier and earlier. But at that time, there's this developmental, where like your eyes are opening to this abstract thought, or this ability, to compare yourself to others, and to be interested in that social world, and where do you fit in with your friends, and access to social media of who am I in relation to that, and how can I be good, how can I have relationship, how can I fit in. And then there becomes these messages that in order to do that, you do have to sacrifice or silence different aspects of yourself in order to have that relationship and to have that connection. And there's kind of this idea of, oh, you can't have both. And so that's what I'm really, but there's also research. Well, how do we resist that? How do we speak out against that? How do we fight against that? And so that's what I'm really interested in is, how can we find those points where you don't have to go underground, in a sense, is the language they use.
So you're making me think about what's going on right now in the world. I've seen so many online communities and local communities, that we just came off of a lot of the world marches going on. And I see so many women who are just being called to reconnect to that voice within them and to find that courage to face their fear and speak up and connect with people who are also speaking up. Are you seeing that? And how can women find the courage if they're kind of on the fence right now, but they know they want to speak up and use their voice? How can they do that?
Well, when you were talking about it, what I really got, the thought that came into my mind is what you're saying about that community, because I think a lot of what can contribute to wanting to silence that voice is because of that fear of that I'm not going to be accepted. This is going to make me kind of stand out, or my truth isn't going to be accepted. And I think that like the spark of this kind of helped a lot of women understand and believe, like, I'm not alone. It's okay to stand up. So the more that you can connect with community and other people that kind of help lift you up, help you know what you know, to use the language that they use in this research, that it creates that kind of resilience and that ability to stand up and to then connect together to give voice to others that don't have that opportunity. Mm-hmm. So I just got the sense, of community and just connecting, joining together and using that relationship and that foundation to strengthen individual voices as well.
In the work that we do, we focus on just how important mindset is and how positive affirmations can help girls and help adults break free of the negative way that we each talk to ourselves, and a lot for mothers, but also our children. So we think that thoughts can help us, walk through life with confidence. Can you speak on that at all?
Yeah, I love using affirmations as young as a child. Like, I've taught affirmation work to children, 3-4 years old, up to women, because there is so much power in that shift of changing that language. What I really like about studying yoga, was coming to mind, is that there's this natural tendency to have this monkey mind, this mind, and then, especially often for women, to have that self-critical, that negative talk coming in. So if you can have these empowering statements that to be true when you're in that space, or that you can live into being true, to have that language to replace it and to continually change the words you're saying, then can also change the thoughts and change the mindset as well. And the reason that I bring up yoga is because they're going to keep coming up, so to have that consistent practice, and, that's going to continue to come up, but this is what I can offer to myself, and this is what I can choose to do. And I can, empower myself to shift that mindset.
I really like that. I think about our kids, we think about that for ourselves a lot in the work that we do with women, but, I have two of my oldest boys are, I don't like to say shy, but they are reserved, and they have a lot of social anxiety, I would say, and some fear there. And so we've had to find creative ways to help them manage that. My oldest in particular, we've named his fear. He's actually given it a name. And so when he's in certain situations, we make jokes about this little guy who's gonna, maybe we can put him in a box today, or you can, and he has like little ways that he can get him off of his shoulder to help, and he does have some positive affirmations that he uses. But I think we forget sometimes, like my 6-year-old, when he started kindergarten, I mean, it was a really scary thing for him. And so for him to just have an affirmation and a tool that he could use, he really listened to that. He actually really used it. And so I'd love to hear some of your other suggestions. How do we help children, especially, handle some of those emotions, those heavier things that they're, that we kind of take for granted, but, how do we help them cope with those?
Well, what I really liked about what you said, in terms of that, you said you brought it into conversation and you helped him name his fear. That's a one huge foundational thing that I think that we can do, is to bring it into conversation, that there are painful emotions, there are challenging and darker emotions, and that they don't have to be shameful, and they don't have to be hidden and not talked about, and even just giving them language and helping it, not be something you have to hide from, but that you can face together. That's one, I think, hugely foundational thing that you can do. And then, I think each person has their own special language for what's going to help them be able to manage their emotions. So, I love using all different music, movement, writing, play, art, and giving them access to all different kinds of tools and helping them, build that toolbox for themselves of what's going to help manage your anger, your particular fear, your sadness.
Mm-hmm. We use journaling in our house, but my oldest, that just wasn't his thing. But my 6-year-old, for sure, I mean, it's so darling. If he's like had an upsetting day or there's something he wants to talk about, he's like, I'll be right back. I have to get to my journal.
Oh, great. Yeah. And so, you can start to see like, what is their special thing that's gonna help them. And initially, it's just giving that access, that there are all of these different kinds of things, and, letting them see you, how do you deal with emotions? And it might not be the same recipe for them. But, having that mindfulness of, how am I managing my emotions in front of my children? How am I speaking about them? And that's teaching them, volumes as well.
That scares me.
That's what I do on this regular. Like, she knows everything. Here, right? That's why there's the mindful mama movement, because we want to try. We're conscious and intentional and passionate about trying our very best.
That's all that we can do. That's all that we can do, mamas. What would you say to a mom who is struggling with connecting to her teen or tween age children? And do you have any tools that you can suggest to moms when they're trying to have these deep connections with their kids, but also practicing letting go and allowing them to take some risks to make their own mistakes? And are these the same for boys?
The same for boys. Well, I'll start with, I think, to speak to that, that, if you start from this foundation of this relationship-based approach and this mindfulness, that you're going to, be present and in tune with what is the language that, so similar to managing emotions, like what is that child going to need to, why is there that disconnection? Why is there that struggle? And what are they going to need to break through that? Is it that gentle? Is it affection? Is it kind of, more, sharing it in a distance type of a way, but, still, where are their boundaries with that? So I think that, the tools can work for both girls and boys if you start from that foundation of really, I'm going to be mindful and in tune with what this child needs. But in terms of struggling and what to say, I mean, the first thing, there's that layer of, this is my fault, I've done something wrong, so there is that, I think, importance of, it's going to be okay, then the type of encouragement, and then to look at again, what is it that they're needing? Is there something under that struggle? How can you communicate in a way that's going to work best for that child? I know it's kind of vague, and maybe what I'm saying, but it's so, I think, personal in terms of, what causes that obstacle. And it really is about that kind of, listening to that private language that they have.
Yeah, well, I think it reminds me of another guest we talked to recently about, she uses the word attunement. And it's really just about being, in touch, really just trying to adapt in any moment, especially with the hormones going and all the kids are changing. I think do you find that too, Ashley, even with your own boys, that you have to, every day's different really with where they are and how you connect with them?
Yeah, I have my oldest, he's 22 now, that I would say hit like the emotional parts of puberty really late. And so with my next son, who is now 15, when he was about 12, he would just like be in a conversation and start crying. And that was new for me. And he's my second son. And that's not the way that my first son went through puberty. And one day we were just talking about something and he was in tears and he said, well, I guess this is just the new me. But for me, if I was trying to raise my 4 boys in the same way, I would really be missing so much, because each one of my kids have very, very different needs and are socially, one of my kids is really socially confident and a leader, and the others aren't very confident socially, that they really are like, can't you still like do play dates for me? I don't want to just do this. But I think it's really interesting. And I love hearing you talking about girls. And what I notice with my friends that have only girls versus me that has boys is the things that are happening for us in a 7th and 8th grade were happening with the girls in 5th grade. Mm. And when you said that age, like 9 to 11, I'm like, oh yeah, they're in 5th grade.
Yeah, and I mean, I like what you're saying too, of that kind of approach of seeing what do they need at that specific time, and that as well in terms of that, like, when do you practice like the letting go and the making mistakes, and when do you offer support? And it is like a dance and a balance. And I think if you can even bring that in itself into conversation, that like we're going to figure this out together. There's times when it's like, leave me alone, like I could do this on my own, or times when they're like coming and hugging you and it's like, oh, they're they need me now. So it's like, how can you honor that in whatever stage it happens?
Yes. I always love the reminder when people say that it's a dance. Mm-hmm. I mean, that says it right there. Some days it's
a dance that I don't really know the steps to yet. Nobody told me the steps to this dance.
It's all an improv dance. Yeah. Well, one of the ways you and I connected, Carly, was through talking about education and some of the questions we posted in the Mindful Mama Movement group on Facebook. And so many moms chimed in. And I know that that's always a big one for all of us. We never know. Are we making the right school decisions for our children? Education seems to be a big, big topic. And one thing I'm finding is that I think it's safe to say that everyone feels that there's no perfect solution. There's not, you go to private school or you homeschool or you go to public school. There's just no perfect ideal scenario, but you have to really stay connected. And I want to hear from your perspective, especially from a mindfulness way of looking at things. If your child is in, say, the public school, but maybe they don't fit in, or maybe they're a little bit different or can't sit still, or, there's something where mainstream wise, it's just a little bit tougher for them. How do we as mothers kind of balance that need for mindfulness? How do we foster their emotional, creative development that they may not be getting within the school system?
To me, a big part. I mean, before I had this focused work on girls empowerment, I'm also really into alternative education and working with homeschoolers and exploring, the different kinds of ways. And yeah, how can you create that holistic balance wherever you are, whether you're in a public school, whether in, homeschool, because then that has its own challenges as well that you have to figure out, how do you foster all of the needs. To me, one of the most important things in terms of that emotional, because if you are in a public school with certain where, maybe they don't have those outlets, to offer them as much as you can, to offer space for them as much as you can at home, and not only just space for them, but teaching through example, teaching through the time, through the effort, through the focus that you give, that those needs are as important as what's happening at school. So that if you have you don't fit into that mainstream structure, that type of learning isn't for you, but that math class is not any more important than what I'm going to help you foster emotionally and creatively. So to teach that the inherent value in it, so that even if you are going and spending that day in school and there's not really any mindfulness going on, you can teach tools to, I'll speak to that as well, but to show that there's the value, because otherwise you can teach whatever tools you can take, give a mindfulness class on the weekends or whatever it is, but they're going to see through what you're spending time on and what's important through grades or whatever it is, that's what really matters, so I think that that's fundamentally important. And then in terms of tools, what ways can you help? I mean, are there opportunities to if the kid who can't sit still, are there opportunities for him to stand up and do his work, just as one simple thing? If a child's overly sensitive, will the school work with you to give that child like a safe, quiet space instead of recess, or when they need to, calm themselves down or whatever it is? And then what other outlets can you also find, after school and in your community and in your home, to be able to, create that holistic balance? So I definitely think it's possible.
I mentioned to you that I ran a girls empowerment program. It was my first job coming out of college after being a camp counselor and doing all sorts of things with girls that age. It was like the best job that I landed at that time, and really directed where I started being more passionate about inspiring women to reconnect to themselves. But one of the big things that we did in that program, especially for that, what you're talking about, that 9 to 11-year-old, but also 9 through 18, was mentorship programs and how important mentors are. And it makes me think about this question of education too. You may not be getting it, let's say, through a teacher, but if you find your child is, really into science, is there somebody in your community that can help foster that? So is mentorship an important tool that you would recommend also?
Yes. I meant to add that to my list.
Oh, good. We're on the same page.
No, it's actually, I think that's a wonderful idea. And I especially, no, not especially, but with homeschool, I think that could be a really important piece too, because you don't necessarily have that access. But yeah, what opportunities are there in the community for you to see what that path could be? So there aren't, it just expands opportunities, and not only gives you that really personal chance to connect to somebody that is passionate about the same kinds of things, so in terms of learning, but to see a vision of what's possible for you with somebody that's followed that path, and to give as much access to that. Absolutely.
Well, I think it's nice for parents to remember that, when you're struggling with, am I making the right decision? Well, you don't know that necessarily, but if you're open and stay connected to what their interests are, then it's not all on you. It's not like you're providing that after school or on the weekends. There is it is in terms of you recognizing it, but it's about finding those right mentorships to help foster some of that need too, I think is important. It helps me anyways when I think about, I've got a whole years of school ahead of us here. Yeah.
Well, and it goes also back to that attunement, because it's, there, like you said, there isn't this ideal, perfect utopian place, but your child can tell, are they struggling so much that you need a different kind of learning environment, or is it that you can find this, with those mentorships? So, being in tune and seeing again, what your child needs to have that ultimate balance. I think, it goes back to that relationship too.
I love it. One of my boys played on just this really sweet soccer program, and we had two dads coach, and they were really great, and the kids were all together, and they were all good friends. And I can't even remember what grade, but at some point, maybe sixth grade, fifth grade, we switched, and some of the kids went on to be on a more competitive team. Some kids, quit playing soccer or whatever. And my son had loved soccer, and he loved the team and was so passionate about it. And then we had a new coach who was mean. He was really mean, and he kind of picked on the kids that, weren't working really, really hard, or, whatever was going on. And within 3 months, my child was saying to us, I want to quit soccer. I hate soccer. And I've never liked soccer. And we're like, no, that's not true. Like, you loved it. And I think it speaks so much to to be mindful of who their mentors are, that we just kind of followed the leader, and we went with a few kids for carpooling reasons. And he all of a sudden really just decided, like, this isn't for me, dude, this guy scares the heck out of me, or, whatever it was. So I think it's brilliant just to be mindful of who those people are, and how they're affecting our children. I don't know that it would have affected my oldest. He's got a little thicker skin in the way that it did, this particular child.
Space. I mean, you're saying that that's also, something too, to find those allies within the school system as well. Is there that, like, a counselor, another teacher, whoever it is that, can have that positive influence and makes that special connection. So it can be, hugely transformational. I agree.
Yeah, I think that, does it feel like this person's on my team, literally, on Ashley's team, or not? And the kids know. I mean, my child knew within months that, this didn't feel good. And he didn't know how to say that other than, I don't want to do this activity anymore. And that was his way to, share it with us, that I can't be with this dude anymore. My new
well, it might be hard to kind of like wrap his brain around it too, of like, wait, what happened here?
Yeah,
this was awesome, and now what happened?
Yeah, it's an interesting thing to witness, I think. Can you tell us, we're going to shift a little bit, what the Chakra Girls are?
The Chakra Girls are they're a series, a collection of characters that I created, inspired by my love, essentially, of studying the chakra system and how transformational it was for me. And so with all of my personal development work, that's been transformational to me, or that I've seen transformational to other people, I envision, how can I distill this? How can I bring these teachings to girls to make them accessible and fun and relatable and really help them with where they're at? So the Chakra Girls are my manifestation of that. And so each one of them embodies the wisdom of each one of the chakras, where added together, it kind of contributes to help girls be able to tap into that power inside themselves and have that, extra confidence that we're talking about, that you need to be able to be yourself in the world. I also wanted to contribute to an alternative form of superheroes that were more empowering, so they have different body types and different skin colors. And they not only have magic powers, but they have earth powers. So ways that their unique gifts have become a way that they help. So, for example, like the red girl, Mula, who teaches the root chakra in spirit and groundedness and the importance of stability. When do you need to tap into her? When do you need that power to help you? You'll be your best self. Maybe you starting a new school, or your parents got divorced and you have to go live in a new place. Or the green And the heart chakra, she helps you find love for yourself and express kindness to others and service, and helps make positive change in the world. So yeah, they're my way of bringing wisdom to the wisdom of the Chakra Girls, and personal development. It's just a fun way to frame personal development too, and bring all of that juicy learning to the girls in a way that's fun for them and that they can relate to and feel more comfortable in getting into those deeper feelings and those more complex feelings in a less scary way.
It's like multiple personalities. I mean, and in a good way. I mean, it sounds insane. But like, when do I need little Anna?
It is. They're like little talismans. But that's kind of how I became to use the chakra system, and how people use it in yoga. Like, when do I need to connect with my inner power? So out at the march, everyone you like connect with that fire, connect with the yellow, the empowerment, connect with the blue, with your voice, with your throat chakra, because to give voice, so it gives you extra courage. And
I love it. That is so creative. I know that we discovered the Chakra Girls on your website, and we will share the website and the link for anyone who wants that in our show notes. I'm curious for you, being a busy single mom and having all this amazing stuff going on in your business. What do you do for self-care? How do you stay connected to your inner power, and how do you fill yourself up?
Well, I'm going to tell you, honestly, it's a lot easier to teach it than it is to offer it to yourself. So that's that's one thing. But I try to make sure on like micro levels and macro levels. So I try to make sure that at least like once a week I have a chance to go surfing, or to do yoga, or to do something that's like moving my body in that way. I try to once a month get a massage or acupuncture, on that level. And then really in the moments in the day, it's that like treat myself to a cup of coffee, or let me sit outside in the sun right now because things are getting too stressful. So where can I implement self-care throughout the day so it doesn't get to that boiling point of like you can't practice that mindfulness because you're just I haven't given that time for myself. So that I think is even, I do think those times scheduled to connect with friends, all of those are important as well. But it really is those, where can you find those moments throughout the day to offer self-care for yourself?
You say surfing?
I did say surfing.
Oh, that's on my list. It's still something I've never tried. That's got to be pretty empowering.
Yeah. It is absolutely. If you both study yoga, it's a very similar in terms of like the kind of journey that you go on. It's not just this movement practice, and learning yoga is not just learning the poses. It's life changing, and I feel that way about surfing as well.
Have you ever surfed?
No, I've never surfed.
Okay.
Well, I will video Shannon doing it. Like, that is not on my bucket list. I don't need to do it. I'm not gonna do it.
We'll do the Mindful Mama Movement Retreat in San Diego with the option to surf.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I'm there.
I'll raft near you.
You can body board or whatever.
What does being a mindful mama mean to you?
Well, I do have to thank you for your movement, because it's definitely helped me kind of be more in touch with what that is, and take the time for myself to define what that is. It's being in that present moment as much as I possibly can, and gratitude comes up a lot for me. So the more mindful I can be, the more present, the more grateful I can be with like just trying to capture every single moment that I possibly can, of just joy, and just it's miraculous watching a child grow, however old they are, at every moment, so it's just that commitment to being present as much as possible, because I know that's where life is, that's where joy is, that's where gratitude is.
Yes. Well, it kind of leads into the next and final question for you, which we like to end with a mindful mama moment. And it's just something to inspire our listeners, kind of taking that mindful action after you've soaked in the conversation. What would you like our mamas to take away from our conversation today, or some sort of call to action that you'd have for them?
In the spirit kind of what we've been talking about is that, just that importance of listening to what is that, being in tune and listening to what is that special language that your child is speaking with you, and how can you use that to foster those emotional needs, like you were saying, the creative needs, the needs that might be different than what is fostered in that mainstream education. And also the importance of teaching through example. So the more mindful you can be, the more you can, embody your own authenticity, your own courage, your own ability to take risks, everything you want to give to them. They're going to see that. They're going to feel it. They're going to take it in, maybe even more than the words that you say, especially the older they get. And that mistakes are okay too. That it's going to be okay. And that you're awesome. You're doing a good job. I'm thinking back to that, like, oh God, they're going to watch everything I'm saying. How can I manage that?
Yes.
But that mistakes, that's, the more you can teach and show it's okay to make mistakes, the more resilience can be built up. And there's so much learning in failure. There's so much to learn and to grow from that. So the more you can be okay with making mistakes, the more they can learn that as well. So
that's beautiful. Thank you for that. You are so inspiring. Where can our listeners find you?
Yeah, my pretty new website is carlymentlik.com. And my blog's on there, and my services, and more about the characters and the work that I do.
Okay. And you mentioned a giveaway, right, for our community. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I have a series of learning guides that I've put out there, but I haven't fully launched yet. And I just love to get people using them and seeing the value in them, the tools that there are. So if there are parents out there who have tween girls that would be interested for the first 10, or I don't know how many people are out there, but yeah, I'd like to offer a free guide to anyone who's interested and would be open to sharing their experience with it with me. And also anyone who's interested in my parent coaching services, I'd love to offer a 50% off option for that.
Wow, that's fantastic. Well, we'll share all those details in our Mindful Mama Movement group on Facebook. So if you are not a member yet, make sure to join us there. And Carly is a member, so she'll be available all this week to answer any questions. And we'll just be doing some random drawings for these giveaways.
Sounds great.
Carly, it was so fun having you on the show.
Yeah, this was great. Thank you guys so much.
Okay, we hope you enjoyed that. You can go to mindfulmamamovement.com for all the show notes and join our mailing list, where you will receive 2 free guided meditations sent directly to your inbox. And that's where you will get informed about new and upcoming shows, as well as any Mindful Mama retreats that we'll be planning in the future. So take care. We'll see you on Facebook. And thanks again for being part of our community. We appreciate you and can't wait to share with you our next show. Bye.
Gather up all your brothers and sisters, hug your mama till you die. She loving me.